DC continues its ritual of concocting some of the most agonizing and tragic origin stories with Vengeance. Often regarded as Bane's daughter, Vengeance has lived away from the influence of her father since the very beginning. However, she has been influenced by the same thing as her father, Venom. The super steroid program at Santa Prisca succeeded at powering Bane up, but it failed to gain control over the man's psyche. Such errors were fixed and the experiments were implemented again, this time on a little girl who was created in a tube using Bane's DNA. Being subjected to her brain being programmed from the very beginning of her life, Vengeance had no real motives behind her actions. But that was definitely not the end of things for her. In today's video, we will go over Vengeance's story and how she was able to forge her own path in the end. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Vengeance Tragic Origins. When you think of the word vengeance, what comes to your mind? Revenge, getting wronged and giving back, losing someone you love and avenging them, being forced to lose yourself and then setting the score. Vengeance is the very reason behind Batman beginning his crusade against crime in Gotham City. The lust for vengeance is a powerful emotion and often the one thing that triggers a chain of events. This makes it a device that can be used to control you, and in a crime-ridden world like the one in Batman, it is not a stretch for anyone to plant vengeance on another, just to use them as a pawn. This is where Bane's daughter, Vengeance, comes in. She plays a significant role in the 2021 Joker comics, where Jim Gordon is hunting the Joker down. This time, he is not interested in learning about the Joker's whereabouts and alerting Batman of him trying to poison the city's water supply on a Gotham City rooftop with a chopper flying over his head. He knows all too well that the Joker's madness would have ended a long time ago if he had been killed. In fact, Commissioner Gordon was put on the Joker's case in the first place to kill the clown. That he is not the only one who wants to kill him, there is another, Vengeance. She has a burning desire and the urge to kill the Joker. The reason is unknown, not just to me and you, but to her as well. As we talk about the events of the comics, we will eventually get into the details about Vengeance herself, but to understand that better, we need to give you an overview of everything that is on the surface and everything else that Jim Gordon discovers as time goes on. Gotham City has been overrun by crime, despite the presence of the Bat family, who are working overtime. Bruce Wayne is not nearly as wealthy as he used to be since his money has been squandered by the Joker. Even though the Joker eventually lost those billions as well, they could not be put back into Batman's assets. There was also the City of Bane arc that resulted in Alfred dying, since Bane used the butler to keep the Bat family away from his tail, but in the end, Alfred sacrificed himself to give Batman the opening to solve the case once and for all. Most importantly, there was the A-Day where the Joker had seemingly launched a chemical attack in Arkham Asylum. This ended up killing several rogues from Batman's gallery alongside the workers at the asylum as well. A very notable death from the incident was Bane. In the present, the Joker is still doing what he does best, killing people in splendor and leaving his mark, and this time Commissioner Gordon is not having any of it. Meanwhile, organizations such as the Network, the Court of Owls, and the Sampson family are lurking in the shadows. The Network deals with keeping the criminals around the world safe, and they are supported by the Court of Owls. They elevate the criminals of Gotham City, who are often costumed and characterized rogues, drawing a lot of public attention. Their publicity due to the characters they play helps the Network hide all the other sociopaths and mass murderers who are often as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than the Joker, just not nearly as flashy. And finally, there is the Sampson family, an elite and filthy rich family who have acquired a taste for human meat. And this time, Clown is on the menu for them. In order to keep the operations running smoothly, the Network also needed to create distractions. They had gotten the DNA samples of some of the most dangerous people, such as Harley Quinn, Bane, Two-Face, the Joker, and even Batman himself. They were already well aware of the Bane program that had created Bane in the prison at Santa Prisca. Even though he was already strong, feared, and extremely buff, Bane did not become Bane until he was injected with venom, which he eventually got addicted to. However, there was a miscalculation in the math. Bane was supposed to be someone who would be controlled. He was never supposed to have his own autonomy. Clearly, that did not happen. So, for the scientists, amends had to be made, which eventually resulted in the birth of Vengeance. He was born in the tube of a lab in Santa Prisca with the help of Bane's DNA and an endless supply of venom. She was hooked onto the drug since her birth and restrained to her tube where she was constantly subjected to venom. Her mind was programmed to hate the Joker. She was conditioned to have a raging lust for vengeance against the clown prince of crime, so much so that she ended up with the desire to kill the Joker, bury him under the ground, dig him up after a week, and then burn his body instead of just killing him. But come to think of it, she had no reason to want to kill the clown, that too in such a gruesome manner. She had recently gotten involved in a fiasco at Paris, where the Joker was supposed to be. Her strength was proven the moment she fought. Her uppercut punches beheaded her opponents, and everyone, including Gordon, looked in horror. Meanwhile, Jim Gordon was hot on the Joker's trail and was framed for a series of murders where the real criminal was likely to be the Joker. He soon met a detective named Isabella Hallows, who told him about the network and the world of crime outside Gotham City. She pointed out how his main goal was really the entire chain of crime and not just the Joker. However, the conversation was interrupted by Vengeance, who hit Hallows with a punch and ripped her forearm off. She then choked Gordon to make him unconscious and restrained him inside a car. While they were surrounded by choppers, Vengeance intercepted the bullets by ripping off the car door and using it as a shield. She then threw the door to take down the chopper before driving off with Gordon in the car and then getting on a boat. When Gordon regained consciousness, he interacted with Vengeance for the first time. He assumed that she was an enemy and wished to know her motives. He learned her name and wished to know who she wanted to avenge. However, she was only met with Vengeance's disappointing reply, since she herself did not know why she was doing what she was doing. The Joker had done nothing to her. She was never wronged by him, but she had been programmed to want to destroy him. She wanted to be free from it, but she knew that she would never be free until the Joker was dead. As such, she wanted a purpose. She wanted to be Jim Gordon's vengeance. She told him about how she learned of her origin. She spoke about noticing how the generals around her gave her one order, but their mission was always different from what she was told. During an event where a building was torched, Vengeance wandered off to investigate and found the cellar with the DNA samples where one of the samples read Vengeance Bane Mark II. She had noticed how Gordon had joined the dark side after being an honest man for all these years, but she had also noticed how he couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger and take a life. As such, she offered to do the job for him. She offered her ability to kill in exchange for Jim Gordon's vengeance. And when it came to Jim Gordon, he had a lot of reasons to want to kill the Joker. The clown paralyzed Barbara's lower body after shooting her in the spine, unwarranted. He drove Gordon crazy by having him sexually assaulted, often having him dog-walked. He was the one who destroyed Gordon's family time and time again, killing his son and second wife. And he was the one who made Gordon look at death straight in the eyes several times over. Vengeance knew where Joker was, an island known as Majorca. Together they headed to that place and found the Joker alongside a mad scientist who worked in the network. Vengeance was incapacitated with the use of a barrier while Gordon was taken to a hidden area where he witnessed clones of the Joker. Since the chemical vat accident had already ruined the clown's DNA, his clones were some of the worst depictions of body horror. However, they were soon attacked by the Court of Owls, and Gordon was left with a knife stuck to his chest while the doctor was killed. The Joker was taken away, and Vengeance had not regained her composure and reached the scene by then. She came in late, but by then the Joker was gone. And stuck in a desperate situation, Gordon had no choice but to contact Barbara. Luckily, the knife was not in the direction of his heart, and it had not been pulled out of his body, so with treatment and rest, Gordon was able to get better. But time was ticking, and bigger mysteries were unfolding that made it clear that the Joker was nothing but a victim of a bigger plot. This was very much true, as the Joker was taken to the Sampson family and restrained in a cage to marinate, after which the chef would cook him. Meanwhile, Jim Gordon snuck out of the house even though he had been asked to rest and took a flight to Texas, where he gave Harvey Bullock the brief of the situation. But since Gordon knew that the Joker was not the main problem anymore, that brought him at odds with Vengeance, putting them in two separate teams. Soon, Gordon met with Cressida Clark, who had abducted Barbara Gordon and Julia Pennyworth, and by this time, Gordon had solved a good portion of the case. He got on call with her and they decided to meet, this time with Gordon knowing who was behind A-Day. As they met, Cressida was joined by a huge man who she seemed to be collaborating with. Barbara and Julia were freed and sent back to Gotham City, while Gordon finally revealed the truth. He addressed the huge man and pieced it with Vengeance being on the loose after being in a tube for so long. He claimed to never have believed that he was truly dead following A-Day because the event was never a Joker plan. It was always a Bane plan. and the man in front of him was none other than the legend of Santa Prisca and the man who broke the bat, Bane. Gordon knew what he had to do next: head to Texas with Bane and find the Joker. Vengeance was headed there as well, and to her, the Sampson family was in her way because they had the Joker. To Gordon and Bane, the Joker was a small fish in a bigger pond, bringing both sides at odds. While the cannibal family waited for the clown to be cooked, Vengeance broke into their property and obliterated anything that came in her way. When the members of the family came out, she once again showed off her clean uppercut that beheaded one of the Sampsons. She began to kill off several Sampsons, and the Joker finally came out of his cage. Vengeance intercepted him and was on the verge of killing him when someone held her back. She turned to the man when he said to her, "Hello, daughter. It's time we spoke." While Bane tried to stop Vengeance, she was adamant on killing the Joker, and so the father and daughter duo fought. And even though they were both strong from the same drug and compared to him, she was a lot younger, she was still no match for Bane. The reason was simple, and Bane pointed it out himself. The procedure had made her a product of mindless rage. She did not have the tact that was necessary to fight. As such, she needed to break out of that mindset. Meanwhile, Gordon spoke with Cressida Clark, who expressed her desire to take down the Network and the Court of Owls, which is why Bane could not let Vengeance kill the Joker. If there was anything she needed to feel vengeful towards, it was the Network, the chain that created her and confined her to a tube for years, a chain that used human DNA to clone them and used those clones to program them with mindless rage to do their bidding. Since Cressida's grandfather had died trying to expose the Network, she wanted to continue his work. She allied herself with Bane, and together they decided to use the Joker as a scapegoat, which would allow them to act freely. Bane then faked his own death, because without Bane in the scene, the Network was bound to release Vengeance. It was all a plot to draw out Vengeance and get her on their side in the big plot, and the Joker himself was aware that he was being used. Soon, Vengeance broke into the room with Gordon in order to get to the Joker, but when she did, she was stopped by Bane. What he told her next changed her trajectory. "He is not the one who wronged you, daughter. You know this. You share my blood, my mind. You're not the weapon of others. You are your own weapon. The authorities will be here soon, but if we leave now, we can have real vengeance on the people who made us into monsters. What do you say, daughter?" As Vengeance heard those words and realized that there were in fact those who she should be vengeful towards, she replied with, "Very well. Is Vengeance more brutal than her father?" In the Joker comics, we have witnessed Vengeance struggle against Bane in a fight. However, that was a result of her lack of tact and self-control in the fight. It was not a demonstration of her true strength. Come to think of it, she is a lot more brutal than Bane himself. She performs feats such as beheading people with a punch or ripping their limbs off. She takes down choppers by throwing car doors at them and breaks cars into half by intercepting them. Clearly, this ridiculous strength is a result of continued venom usage, the super steroid that powers up the user to superhuman levels, giving them super strength, endurance, and stamina with speed and enhanced reflexes. However, the effects of the drug are temporary, and as a result, Vengeance has to be given a constant supply of the steroid. Marvelous story arc of Vengeance in Sword of Azrael. Vengeance returned in the 2022 comics in the Sword of Azrael. This time, she was not driven by vengeance, but by a mission. To understand this better, we have to know about the Knights Templars, a wealthy Catholic military order that had been active since the time of the Crusades. Known as the Templar Knight Dumas, they traveled across Jerusalem and recovered a mother box, which fell from the sky as a result of a clash between Orion and Kalibak, the new gods. The Templars witnessed that fight from far away and believed it to be a clash between an angel and a demon. The mother box that was lost was perceived to be a gift, and as such, they formed the Order of Saint Dumas. The mother box's technology was then used to experiment on people and create the Azraels, who became near superhuman assassins. One such assassin was Poorfellow, who was a descendant of the Knights Templar. Meanwhile, Angel Sariel or Brielle Arnier had been chosen to rebuild the Knights Templars. She considered everyone to be sinners and intended to kill them off. As a result, Poorfellow hired Vengeance to find and abduct Brielle, who was currently on Ludas Island. As she reached the scene, she was attacked by Azrael. He was the vigilante and the wrath of the Order of Saint Dumas. He worked as their warrior and protector since he was their angel of death. As Vengeance fought Azrael, she acknowledged him for having fought Bane in the past. Meanwhile, Brielle got her hands on the Sword of Azrael and headed to kill those she considered to be a sinner. What he did not know was that poor fellow had hired Vengeance. Following intense battle, Vengeance was forced to retreat, but Azrael, she continued to monitor him and Brielle from a distance. She witnessed her slay all the people and escape to Athens with Azrael in an attempt to hide from the Knights Templar. As such, she informed poor fellow of their whereabouts, who soon got Brielle kidnapped while Azrael was left in a trance-like state. Marvelous verdict. So far, we have gotten Vengeance's story with that of others. Her origin came to us within a bigger story that revolved around Jim Gordon. In Sword of Azrael, we did not see her as a protagonist or an antagonist, but as a secondary character who was hired to take down the antagonist. However, we hope that Vengeance will soon get her own line of comics, be it a fleshed out one or a miniseries. If you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.